Chapter 18. Kurama, it is time for me to fulfill my promise. So you aren't balking like I expected you to. When will you do it? I would release me right upon Orochimaru, you know. I could wreck up that mud hole of his for you, you know, a parting gift of sorts. I appreciate the offer. Truly I do. But I prefer not to let the world know that you are free. If they come after you desiring power, I will not be able to stop them if you are not present. Raikage has the amber sealing pot, and shinobi exist who are adept at sealing. True indeed. Will you release me here right inside of Konoha? It might be fun. For you, perhaps. No. I will release you the moment we are at a safe distance from Konoha. I swear it upon my forefathers and my grandchildren unborn that you will never face me as an opponent again, not of my own choosing. What? What? I think you are actually serious, aren't you? About releasing me and the promise not to seek me out for power? No jokes, Kyuubi. I never break my word. I am a previous Hokage, after all. I hope you remain hidden when you are free, Kurama. If Pain comes at you with his outer path, all your infinite chakra cannot save you. A long hour of silence ensued as Naruto rushed through the trees, Kakashi and Sasuke following him easily. And then. I know. He wields that power too well. It is what created me, and it can cause me no end of trouble. That's why. No. Don't tell me. Shut up. That is why I will help you in your endeavor. Peace is conducive to me as well, Naruto. I can fade into obscurity that way when men no longer want me for my power. I will have you as my Jinchuriki for now. But I will hold you to your promise when the time truly comes. Fine. I wouldn't want you to be captured anyway. And I will honor my promise to you when you demand it. I will one day make sure human malice will never touch the Baijiu again. Normally I would laugh heartily at such a declaration, said the Kyuubi quietly. But if anyone has a chance at such a thing, it would be you. You remind me of grandfather, a lot, what with all your ridiculous idealism and convictions. Grandfather? You mean the Rikudo Sennin? But the Kyuubi had gone silent, causing Naruto to go silent as well. Kurama's sudden faith in him was moving. He could faintly understand the uncounted centuries of suffering the tail beasts must have gone through. It filled him with great shame that he had also once been party to conquering them for their power. The balance of power, huh? He murmured softly to himself, shaking his head disgustedly. Using such originally pure beings as pawns in a feudal games for power. He must have been insane in his other life. I can see your soul, Kyuubi, since it resides within mine. You are not a mass of hatred as I once foolishly thought you to be. You were made that way by us, by humans. I still feel ashamed about it. I would let you free right this instant but for your own decision. The warm acknowledgement from the strongest of the Baijiu put a smile on his face, and he raced forward with a renewed vigor. When he had asked Mito to seal the Kyuubi within herself, she had done so with little hesitation and without asking him why. Mito could not be faulted, his beautiful wife was always there to support him in every way possible. Just as I was not there for her in this life. I keep failing continuously, it seems, he thought to himself sadly. It was his fault that day, his fault that so much suffering had been spread around to maintain the balance of power. His fault that he had foolishly, naively thought that distributing the Baijiu-like weapons to the other nations would hold the balance. He shook his head sadly, the very act of distribution was wrong. How could an act, born out of ignorance and neglect, yield anything inherently good? He had begun to regret that fact now, an entire life later. The fact that he had even disturbed entities like the Baijiu. Foolish pride of his first youth, no doubt. He had begun a cycle of suffering that had thrown a huge wrench into Rikido's intentions for the Baijiu. It was direct disrespect to the father of ninja, and to his own ideals. But I will end it in this life, he promised himself. He would one day gather all the 9 Baijiu, earn their respect, and give them a choice to be free. He had made a terrible mistake in letting the Baijiu be used as they had been, and the nations were paying a terrible price for it now. Tobi, are you fine? Asked Sasuke in a voice of faux concern. Naruto nodded as Kakashi called a halt in the middle of the forest. We will pause here for the night. At least we are within sight of Hinokuni. We also need to plan how we are going to go about this mission, said the copy ninja in his lazy voice. Wood rose out of the earth in tall pillars, molding itself into fantastic shapes to form a beautiful house of traditional architecture. Flowers bloomed across its sloping tiles, and detailed sculptures of stone rose on either side of its entrance. Thank you, Naruto, said Kakashi genially, as Sasuke gawked at the palatial house Naruto had built in seconds. Well, are you coming or not? Asked Naruto as he walked happily to the house he had created. As he slid open the doors, a smile came onto his face. It seems my attention to detail has improved, he said, pointing to the carvings on the roof and walls. The roof of the building was transparent, and allowed for them to see the night sky in all its glory. But the make of the house itself was quite royal. Sasuke shook his head, feeling deeply touched by the things Makadan could create. As a tool to build, or a force to destroy. It had no equal. He bent enough of his pride to admit that not even the Sharingan could achieve something like this. Sharingan was only about never-ending conflicts and destruction. Not like Naruto's Makadan, which could spawn beauty such as this. Even when Makadan destroyed, it created. Even when it took several lives in the battlefield, it created several living plants. He had begun to think of the Susanoo as his tool of ultimate destruction. Several times he had used it to destroy hapless ninja he had encountered in the other missions. Naruto glanced at Sasuke, feeling in the Uchiha an all too familiar emotion. It was a tiredness of conflict, a loathing of malice. And at the same time an urge to do anything necessary to end the suffering. But therein lay the choice, the fine line between Madara and himself lay in that choice, the fine line between Pain and himself also lay in that choice. The choice of how to end the suffering. I will put up intruder alert seals over the perimeter, said Kakashi, and vanished from sight. Naruto seated himself on the bed with a sigh, and turned to Sasuke, who was busily organizing his belongings. I know it is not my place, but I can sense your melancholy. Talking will help, you know. It is never good for us shinobi to bottle our feelings, he said gently. He had seen firsthand the effects of such actions. It would drive the shinobi into despair and anger, and that would be the beginning of death. Sasuke laid out his bedspread neatly, and also sat down on his bed. He looked around the large room with a sense of envy, feeling the beautiful wood that made it. The room itself was furnished with all amenities required for a house, some so ostentatious that he doubted whether even the daimyo's house had such things. For one, he did not think a makeshift camp warranted a highly polished teak dining table. His Sharingan could tell easily that such a thing would fetch hundreds of thousands of ryo, even he could find no faults in its structure or smoothness. He turned to Naruto, and indicated the entire house with a wave of his hand. All this, he said softly. I begin to feel a lack of pride in my Sharingan, he confessed, drawing an absolutely shocked look from Naruto. That was certainly not what he had been expecting to hear, that too from an Uchiha fanatic like Sasuke. What the? I know, it is amusing to you. But I begin to feel tired of our life of anger and killing. Is that all there is to it? Kill, gather power, kill, become powerful, become stronger. It is a vicious cycle, said Sasuke with sorrow. Naruto waited, knowing Sasuke was suffering deeply. Konoha had failed once more in following his edicts. Long ago he had made it law that children were not to participate in missions, and yet Sasuke had been forced to do so. There was no help for it, but it was saddening to see the despairing face of old veterans upon a young face like Sasuke's. Killing fellow shinobi. I know that is a necessity, said Sasuke in a quiet voice. I had to kill several in my missions with Kakashi. But when I was forced to kill children, not much older than me and many times younger than me. One was barely 12 years of age. It was horrible. They came at me to kill me, and I killed them in return. But to see the life leaving their eyes. Terrible, said Sasuke, shaking his head. Then he glanced around the opulent castle Naruto had called up with his technique. Seeing your Makadan being used in such a manner, it is changing my conception of the world, he confessed. Naruto's eyes widened, looking at the Uchiha with interest. Oh? How so? For once, I have no wish to destroy things. Seeing this beautiful house so easily shaped. I too want to do something like that. Sharingan can only destroy, never create. I have destroyed and destroyed, repeatedly. I have killed children. Here his mouth twisted in self-loathing, and his eyes grew haunted. You say you are Hashirama Senju reborn, so you may understand the joy of building everlasting things, he said after a few moments. How did you build Konoha? I don't mean the story, I will hear that another time. I mean, exactly how did you build Konoha? With Tashi no Jasho, said Naruto softly. As the assembled clans of Uchiha and Senju stood there waiting, I used Makotan to create what you know to be the inner ring of Konoha today. I see, said Sasuke, trying to picture such a scene. With your Makotan, you can build things. You can rid entire lands of their drought, and your healing can bring people back from near their deaths. You have the strength to turn this world into a paradise, he said passionately. Naruto sat stunned at the fervent proclamation of the Uchiha. He had never ever heard any Uchiha speak that way. He had never suspected Sasuke to have changed this much in 3 years, no he had not. These were profound thoughts Sasuke had put forth, and it touched something in him that he had thought was lost in endless conflict. My Sharingan is nothing more than a weapon, said Sasuke dismissively, as if realizing it just now. I only now understand what Itachi was trying to tell me all those years ago, as I begged and pleaded with him to tell me how he mastered those eyes at merely 8 years. Uchiha are not defined by their jutsu, he said. But by something much deeper, something beyond even chakra. Silence fell over them as they heard a faint whisper come into the room. Kakashi watched Sasuke with a visible pride that shone strongly on his face, something that even Naruto felt. He could count on his fingers the number of Uchiha who had come to the same epiphany as Sasuke. He knew that the young Uchiha would never fall to the curse of hatred. The will of fire, said Kakashi softly, staring at Naruto. Naruto nodded, and his forest green eyes shone with a wisdom that stunned Kakashi and Sasuke. He turned to Sasuke, and said, there is no excuse for killing. We shinobi do it as a matter of course, giving various justifications, he said in a weary voice. But a garden cannot grow if the weeds are not pruned. It is only this belief that has sustained my sanity in both lives, Sasuke. I have tried to avoid killing as much as I could, only doing so in defense of my loved ones. But sometimes there is no choice. You must not let those demons dominate you. Sasuke and Kakashi sat silently, letting the words of the reborn first wash over them. Naruto continued. The sage of the 6 paths was a peaceable man, an enlightened man. He used chakra to aid humanity and to help it reach a new stage of bliss. But fools that we are, we used his gift and turned it into a weapon. Chakra was never meant to be a weapon originally. Minato sensei once said the same thing, reminisced Kakashi. He said fire existed to give life, and not burn it. Water to nurture life and not drown it. Lightning to illuminate life and not vaporize it. Earth to beget life and not bury it. And wind to convey life, not to cut it. My father was a wise man, indeed, said Naruto softly. Sasuke seemed to be mulling over the 4th saying. He spoke the truth, Sasuke. You say you cannot use Sharingan to build? I remember my subordinate, Uchiha Kyoshi, who used illusions of Sharingan to alleviate insanity. I remember Uchiha Ita, who used the Sharingan to learn painting to such an extent that it once made Mito shed tears openly, such was the pathos in his paintings. But I also remember Uchiha Madara, my best friend, who used his Sharingan to protect his kinsmen from all harm. Silence enveloped the room at this. Naruto stretched in his bed, working out kinks calmly before he turned to Sasuke. Words cannot soothe regret, Sasuke. But perhaps actions can, and even better our own perspectives can, he said, before letting himself being taken by sleep. They had much to do in the morning, and he hoped he had brought some peace to the beguiled mind of the Uchiha. Good night, everyone, he murmured. The morning shone bright and crisp, shafts of sunlight penetrating the beautiful house Naruto had erected. The trilling of forest birds made the air even more salubrious than usual, but the air was darkened by the menacing nature of the discussions happening in the room of dining. Is guarded at all times by those sound ninja. The outer walls are reinforced heavily with earth, and it is held actively at all times by a dozen powerful Dodan users. Orochimaru himself lives in a secret underground base and no one exactly knows where it is. Sasuke will need time to search the base, even with Sharingan, said Kakashi, calmly eating the fruit provided to them by Naruto. These apples are delicious, he added generously to Naruto, who grinned. Thank you. But coming back to the subject, I can overwhelm Dodan users. But all our hopes rest in making Orochimaru frantic with our assault, so much so that he does not see through our ruse. He will sense my chakra the moment I am within sight of Oto. The last time I was there really scared him, I think, said Naruto. Kakashi considered deeply, but Sasuke spoke up first. Then flare your chakra. He will be so prepared for you that he won't see me coming, said Sasuke. Naruto could see his emotions had changed considerably. There seemed to be a somewhat lighter feel to his thoughts. No longer were Sasuke's thoughts riddled with their usual melancholy and sadness. His chakra felt warm and hopeful, not its usual forbidding cold. He felt happiness that he had ignited hope in an Uchiha. Turning to Sasuke, he replied. An excellent idea, Sasuke. As long as I am a diversion, let me be a proper one, he said. Kakashi looked at Sasuke and said firmly. If you encounter Orochimaru or Akatsuki, do not use Mangekyo Sharingan. If you do so, they might send Ichi against you. Even if he fights half seriously, Ichi can overwhelm you without even meaning to do so. I have no intention of fighting Ichi, said Naruto, bowing his head. In fact, the lesser we meet, the lesser our association will be suspected. So Kakashi is right, Sasuke. But I have faith enough in your abilities that you can easily complete this mission. I won't fail, said Sasuke with certainty. But if my sensei is threatened, I will not hesitate to use Mangekyo Sharingan. If things get too dangerous, I will also use Makotan, said Naruto reassuringly. Chances are that Akatsuki won't care anyway. I am Pain's equal at the very least, and he will never risk his real subordinates being wiped out by me. Kakashi here is also well versed with the Mangekyo. Together, the three of us are more than equal to this task, he said with conviction. I believe so as well, said Kakashi. Orochimaru is gathering force at Hoto, however, and we would be wise not to dismiss them as the usual rabble. I agree, said Naruto. We must attack in the night, though. Most shinobi are less aware during the night. I say we make the move tonight. Sharingan can see through the dark, and this will give Sasuke an added advantage. My sensory skills care not whether or not it is light or dark. So do we leave now? Oto is quite a distance from this place, said Sasuke. Naruto nodded, standing up as he finished his berries. We leave now, and we make to Oto with as much speed as possible. Orochimaru needs plenty of warning for this plan to succeed. I will also have enough time to sense Oto defenses and shinobi, and that more than anything will give us a real edge in this mission. Hiden has been sent to Takigakure, their Jinchuriki has escaped from her prison, it seems. I have no doubt Hiden and Kakazu can deal with that problem, said Ichi stoically. He stood in Akatsuki's sprawling base at Iwata, amazed as always at how an organization in the shadows had become such a real factor in the forging of the nations. Pain himself had erected the base when the Tsuchikage had refused to help them, literally shaping the huge structure out of the bare bones of the earth. The power of the Rinnegan had been evident then, as had the supremely augmented power of the Akatsuki leader. Perhaps of all the earth users, only the Tsuchikages or Hashirama could emulate or surpass that feat. Good, said Pain in his deep voice. Orochimaru is delaying? He is. I just think he wants more time to experiment with your creation. I have no idea why you have not destroyed him, said Ichi. The air rippled next to him, and spat out a black-robed man with an orange mask and a single Sharingan revealed. Because, said Toby, he is a valuable pawn, and possibly the only one who can understand how to shape that particular metal. As long as we threaten him properly, he will bend to our will. I am not so sure, said Ichi. He is as slippery as a snake, and about as deadly. I predict that his being alive will bring us little good. Already my Sharingan could see more traces of deception in his manner. Much more than usual, I mean. Perhaps I must go there and teach him a lesson, mused Pain absently. He has long delayed the delivery of my staff, and I cannot hear of it any longer. Or I can send Kisame. He has been raring to go after Orochimaru for quite some time now, ever since his blood sample was taken in his sleep. Ichi's mouth twitched at that. Orochimaru had stolen Kisame's blood as the shark-faced shinobi slept, and only the interference of Pain had stopped Kisame from turning Orochimaru into a decoration for Samada in retaliation. Kisame might go to the extremes, said Toby silkily. I do not want to alienate Orochimaru, only threaten him subtly. He is too important a resource to do so. I wish to capture the Ikubi as soon as possible. But if Naruto Uzumaki interferes it will be a problem. Toby, can you just not steal into the place and get Ikubi? Asked Pain. Toby chuckled. Ikubi is too powerful to ferry through interdimensional space. All that chakra is too heavy for any one man to carry, said Toby. Pain frowned. But do not worry, said Toby cheerfully. All we need to do is draw the Ikubi out. To do that we need to hold his siblings. For some reason they all come running for family, said the masked shinobi. Ichi kept his disdain hidden. One day soon he would take great pleasure in burning Toby slowly in the fires of Amaterasu. Problems, Ichi? Asked Toby jovially, but Ichi could see the wariness in the man. He shook his head. None, Toby. I only wonder at the fact that Uzumaki might again get involved. As Pain says, that might be an issue. Toby laughed darkly as his jutsu swallowed him up. That is the beauty of taking hostages, my dear Ichi. You get to demand whatever you want. Ichi was sickened by the man's callous disregard for the most fundamental aspects of life. Pain turned to him, his tall and powerful frame literally glowing with chakra to his Sharingan. I hear Uzumaki Mito has been revived. She has, said Ichi, and felt a burst of true happiness at the fact. Naruto had done it once more, he had shown just who the Akatsuki were dealing with, not that they knew it. This fact more than any other had made Pain wary in his approach, for not even he was skilled enough to heal a person in such a state. Not even with all the vaunted powers of the Rinnegan. Then Akatsuki should be alerted to take care. We captured her through luck the last time, and a vengeful Mito Uzumaki will only add to our obstacles. 7, 8 and 9, said Naruto quietly to Sasuke and Kakashi, who were watching from the fringes of the forest as night fell and caught the now visible Otoge in its gloom. 9 shinobi are constantly watching this sector. All of them are fire-natured, no doubt to take advantage of the combustible nature of the forest. His eyes narrowed slightly. He did not like people harming trees, and not just for the obvious reasons. He looked at Kakashi as the Jounin stood perfectly still in the falling dusk, evaluating their rough plan and thinking of changes. This makes it imperative that we attack first, Naruto concluded Kakashi. Or else, Sasuke can never make it in. Do we invade the city, or do we fight from without? He asked. Naruto frowned. That was a good question. If they went in, there would be problems with attracting the brunt of the Oto shinobi. But it would definitely cause more confusion. To begin with, we attack from outside. Once there is enough confusion, we force our way in and act as backup for Sasuke if necessary, said Naruto firmly. Kakashi nodded, and Sasuke said solemnly. Thank you for your help. I do not care who you are, but thank you. I will not forget how you pulled me out of madness, healed my eyes and body, and now this, said Sasuke gratefully. Naruto just slapped him on the back comradely, causing his knees to buckle. Sasuke glared at him for a moment, then rolled his eyes. Shall we begin? Asked Naruto with gleaming eyes. Kakashi nodded, and they rushed through the forest towards Otoge with rapid shunshuns. Naruto could feel Sasuke take cover at the edge of the forest, and as he turned back he could see nothing of the Uchiha. He could only sense him. Orochimaru has really bolstered the defenses of his city, hasn't he? Observed Kakashi. Naruto could only agree as he saw the high walls of Otoge, and extended his senses to them. He was thoroughly impressed by the workmanship of the wall. "He has," said Naruto, not bothering to whisper. He could see the attention of the shinobi patrols shift towards his voice, and he nodded to Kakashi. "Shall we give them more signals? They seem to be rather dull on picking up on the voice and intent of enemies." He grinned. Kakashi nodded, and began to flare his chakra and killer intent. Shouts began to go up around the village, rending the night with its urgent dirges. A bell began to toll in the village and Naruto could hear the frantic milling of shinobi, urgent to get to their location. They had placed themselves neatly in front of the south gate of Oto as Naruto had sensed a good concentration of the patrols in that direction. Within seconds, 30 shinobi had surrounded them completely and a tall man had drawn a sword, pointing it balefully at Kakashi. "Take Kakashi. You will not survive your arrogance," he stated. Naruto smirked as he saw Kakashi blur into action, mercilessly cutting down the offenders. No matter what jutsu they shot at Kakashi, they did not even put a scratch on him. As the sounds of metal cutting through flesh rang through the night, he stared up at the tall walls of Orochimaru's village. He could certainly blast the gates open, and simply lay into the village. But that would not be a real distraction. He glanced at Kakashi, who effortlessly dodged the onslaught of 3 blurring swords and disappeared with a shunshin. A moment later, 3 opponents lay dead in the grass with shurikens embedded in their backs. "Just eliminate them. That Sharingan fellow is taking far too long," grumbled Kurama in his mind. Naruto said nothing, only watching as Kakashi dealt with the remaining 10 Nukenin, using the Sharingan to effortlessly dodge their strikes. One man seemed to suddenly observe him, and shouted to his fellows. Naruto sighed as 5 seemed to split off from Kakashi, and rushed towards him. They were simply annoyances and he had an entire city to assault. As a katana flashed towards him in the hands of a yelling shinobi, he seemed to fade into the night. Using his sensory skill, he disappeared in 5 perfect shunshin to incapacitate his opponents with accurate strikes to their vital points. As he looked around the prone bodies of their first victims, he saw Kakashi appear at his side. "Do we begin?" "Yes, the clamor in the village is increasing. They know someone is invading them, but not much else," he said, pointing to the fully shut south gate. He could sense the exigency of the entire village. There was no more time to be lost, for he had to get all the attention on himself if Sasuke were to have a chance. Everyone on the village would have to be focused upon him, including Orochimaru and all the other Akatsuki present. He could sense several chakras massed behind the gate, and knew that they would attack any moment soon. "Kakashi, you were in the Enbu?" "Yes." "Then you are highly trained in the katana, correct?" he asked intently as he drew his own sword from its sheath on his back. He had deliberately worn a long white cloak with the Senju trident symbol painted on its back. Jiraiya had told him that he was the spitting image of Namikaze Minato. He was sure that it was Yondaime Hokage himself come back to life. "I am," said Kakashi, his eyes gleaming as he too drew his sword. It was a concession the copy ninja had made upon Naruto's request, for it was far easier to deal with multiple enemies when a real sword was used. The gates suddenly burst open and dozens of shinobi poured forth from it towards them, pausing dead as they saw no army. They saw only 2 men. Naruto nodded to Kakashi, and they began to walk forward impassively. The enemy shinobi buckled slightly, visibly trying to throw off the force of his mighty chakra as a nimbus of silver surrounded him and made him glow slightly in the night. He could feel Sasuke waiting anxiously for the chaos, and quickened his steps into a run. The masked shinobi in front of him broke into a run as well, drawing their weapons in a massive dirge of steel. In an instant he had covered the distance between them, leaving Kakashi behind him as he threw himself into the oncoming ninja faster than they could react to. Multiple swords slashed at him from all directions, but he parried each and every one of them, returning deadly blows. His speed was phenomenal as his enemies seemed to simply die as his sword rose and fell faster than they could react. He could see Kakashi rushing the ones behind him, and was sorely disappointed with how weak the ninja of today had become. A barrage of kunai flew towards him and he effortlessly dodged each and every one, allowing his sensory skills to guide him in evading the chakra-imbued weapons. He caught a shinobi who attacked him from behind by his arm, and kicked him back with such force that he collided with 3 others painfully and smashed into the wall of Oto. He disappeared once more in a burst of speed, and simply clove through the masked shinobi like a hot knife through butter. What happened to these people? He thought with surprise as he cut his way single-handedly to the gates of Oto. Is this some sort of trap? No, idiot. This is the effect of that piece you forced down their throats. They have become fat and lazy, nothing compared to the ninja of old. That was probably true, he thought as he incapacitated 10 shinobi by simply touching their vital points. He was not even trying. He began to feel bad about the entire affair as he simply picked up an offender by his neck and threw him like a rag doll into the wall. He was standing in the center of what was probably all the force of Oto, not at all concerned as he countered multiple attacks effortlessly. Ah! He heard a shout from behind him. He could see Kakashi standing with a cut in his shoulder, streaming blood. Oh, he is going to massacre them, he thought grimly and was proved right as Kakashi flashed through his seals and shouted, Chidori. The night was lit by Kakashi's lightning, and Naruto watched as Kakashi cut down every ninja in his way, and waved as the copy ninja made his way to him through the Oto ninja. How are you not tired? Asked Kakashi, panting slightly. He had killed more shinobi than he could count and was quite tired, thanks to that Sharingan. It was useful but it leached too much chakra from his body. Naruto steadied him and he felt vitality flow from the golden-haired ninja into him, and he felt himself standing straighter. I am a Senju and Uzumaki, Kakashi. My physical energy is not trivial, he said, looking around disappointedly as the Oto shinobi poured on them from all sides with an incoherent yell. I think I have played around enough. I hate to say it, but these shinobi are not worth my time. There is something I have wanted to try for some time now. He clasped his hands in the ox seal, and Kakashi's eyes widened as Naruto flashed through dozens of seals in a matter of an instant. He seemed to be molding chakra with great difficulty, literally forcing it into shape. Karldin. Fire? Was not the Shodai traditionally weak in fire affinity? Kakashi had no answer as Naruto shouted. Gukumekiaku. The night turned bright as the day when waves upon waves of fire flowered out from Naruto's position, literally frying all the ninja who were outside the gates. The fire was so immense that it actually poured into Otagakure from above the walls, and Kakashi could only watch dumbfounded as the offending shinobi were literally vaporized by the intensity of the fire, and he saw Otagakure being set ablaze by the monstrous flames. Naruto did not relent in his attack as he spewed blazing fire that seemed to cleanse the surroundings of Oto of every shinobi except them. Otagakure was now surrounded by a huge ring of blazing fire that towered above even their walls, sometimes pouring inside to cause confusion and death. What was that? He asked shakily, as Naruto let go of his jutsu, panting. The destruction was nearly absolute as he saw no traces of life anywhere around the village, and heard cries of fear inside it. Naruto seemed to be winded as he turned to Kakashi with a satisfied smile. I tried to imitate my old friend, and failed. Fire chakra is very hard to control, he said as he looked around at the fire-written landscape. Kakashi nearly doubled over. Failed? I think you succeeded well enough, he said as Otagakure seemed to bar their gates firmly. Kakashi saw sealing jutsu take effect on the walls and gates, and saw with his Sharingan a huge barrier take shape over the village. It would be very hard to force their way in now, for they had gone on the defensive after Naruto's attack. Madara would have melted the walls with this technique and could do it in one seal. I did not even come close to his prowess. Ah well, my affinity is not fire. And I did take 2 years to perfect this technique, he said disappointedly. Then he brightened considerably. I did take care of our attackers well, did I not? Did you feel Sasuke slip in? He asked happily. Kakashi nodded. But we need to get in as well. Oto is sealed up so no one can get in or out now. That fire technique of yours really frightened them, I guess, said Kakashi dryly, watching the devastation of Naruto's fell technique. He definitely did not want to be on the other end of Naruto's successful ones. "Oh, don't worry about that," said Naruto smilingly. He did not seem bothered in the least as he lifted his hand with palm facing upwards. "Their seals are very strong, but I wonder if they can stand up to this." To his eyes, a kind of Rasengan seemed to materialize into Naruto's hand with a sound like a whistle. The sound was so keen and sharp that he winced, and his mouth fell open as he saw what Naruto was holding in his hand. It was a shuriken-shaped Rasengan with enormous amounts of wind imbued in it. The chakra shuriken was huge, and it seemed to literally sing as it grew in size. He completed the Rasengan? Thought Kakashi, feeling nothing new from Naruto would surprise him anymore. "Futon, Rasen Shuriken!" yelled Naruto as he threw the jutsu at the walls of Oto. Kakashi watched as the three-bladed Rasen Shuriken cut through the air faster than he could believe, but he could also see the highly reinforced walls of Oto. "He must have a wind nature in this life," concluded the copy ninja as the Rasen Shuriken met the walls with an explosive report. The fire from the previous technique was thrown into frenzy as it whipped around the large explosion created by the Rasen Shuriken. He covered his eyes for a moment as the light and fire grew too bright, and opened them a moment later. Naruto grinned at him as he pointed to the section of wall that had been destroyed completely. "Shall we visit dear old Orochimaru, Kakashi?" Sasuke cleanly slipped in with the shinobi Naruto was destroying by the dozen, his highly honed stealth allowing him to blend in effortlessly with the Oto shinobi. He saw Naruto simply killing the Oto shinobi. It was as if he were not even trying. "So this is Hashirama Senju," he thought with awe. The physical strength was nothing short of stunning, he thought, as he cleverly stayed out of Naruto's way. All they did was die at Naruto's hands as the reborn Shodai ripped through their ranks easily. He saw Kakashi throw off his attackers with a Chidori, and join Naruto. A shinobi behind him pushed, and Sasuke elbowed him in the gut. He fell gasping and the Uchiha slipped through the ranks and into the gate, roughing his way through several suicidal shinobi. He felt a rising chakra behind him and was just in front of the gate as he saw Naruto shout, "Gukimekyaku!" He had no time to be surprised as his vision was consumed by white-hot fire. The purple skeleton of Susanoo protected him from the dangerous and immense flames, and he saw every shinobi outside the gate die along with the gatekeepers. "This is my chance." He disappeared with a shunshin and just cleared the closing gates, appearing within Otagakure. Sighing in relief, he substituted his Konoha Hittite 8 with an Oto 1 and began to search around the gloomy village. He would hardly be out of place as Naruto's attack had put the entire village on the burner. Quite literally. Smirking at his own sense of humor, Sasuke ran through the streets, using the Sharingan to search for familiar chakras. He could see powerful seals being activated to bolster the defense, but he was not concerned. Naruto was who he was, after all. Sure enough, the village shook violently, and when he glanced back he saw a huge hole in the walls. Following the most malicious chakra he was sure belonged to Orochimaru, he ran towards the base as fast as he could. Oto reflected Orochimaru's personality, thought Sasuke as he observed the gloomy fear that pervaded the village. Truly, it was not a village in the real sense of the word. But it was a large garrison. His Sharingan could see the concealed entrance in the ground, and made towards it. "Halt! What business do you have here now?" came the voice of two guards. Sasuke turned and observed them. They seemed to be Jounin level guards of some sort. Their presence only confirmed his suspicions. He did not hesitate as his eyes morphed into Mangekyo. Amaterasu. The heavenly black flames fell upon the hapless shinobi, a technique that was far beyond their ability to counter. He knew they would be ashes soon enough. Slowly approaching the concealed trapdoor, he began to consider as to how to open it. He ground his teeth in frustration as no solution seemed to hit him. This was supposed to be a clandestine mission. He had to keep as low a profile as possible. His heart clenched as he heard a long drawn-out scream of pain from within the base. He did not want to know what it meant, for he recognized the voice well. The purple flames of Susanoo materialized and formed the skeletal warrior, and raised its sword high in the air. With an enraged yell, Sasuke caused it to cleave the very earth he stood upon into pieces and landed amongst large quantities of rubble. One look around the overly clean and dimly lit place told him where he was, along with another pain-filled scream from his captive sensei. He was here. The hatred of the Uchiha that burnt in his soul flared, and he ran towards the sound of the screams. Those screams were muted by the sounds of the ensuing battle outside, and he saw the entire village falling into a state of upheaval. Soon enough he could hear only the sounds of powerful jutsu and dying Oto shinobi. If it was the last thing he did, he would make Orochimaru pay for his actions.
Hey guys, what's going on? Thank you so much for watching today's episode. If you guys want to watch more like it, please subscribe to my channel and become part of the video game fanfiction plot. And please leave a comment down below and hit that like button. If you guys have any suggestions on any stories you guys want me to read, don't hesitate. They're always welcome here in the video game fanfic plot. That also goes for video games. Until next time, goodbye!